July 2nd, 2026. Look at how the price action today reacted off of these critical levels. This is by far, if I had to teach somebody, if I had to teach myself from scratch or somebody from scratch, this is the NASDAQ. I would immediately show them the NASDAQ critical levels, and they never change, okay? They always change price, but they don't change in how they work. So what are these critical levels? The purple lines are the previous week's highs and lows, the previous week's close and open. So this was the extreme low of last week. This was the close of last week, or the low rather. I'll just show you on a weekly chart so you understand exactly what I'm talking about. So here you can see these purple lines. So these are weekly bars, right? So here's the low, here's the weekly low. And then here was the open, or rather open and close. And then the weekly high. These are extremes. These are the extremes of last week and the critical levels, open and close, and the highs and the lows of last week. So we always mark those with purple, dashed for the extremes, and then bold for the close and open. Okay? So why am I telling you this? Well, every day we're going to ignore the previous day high and low and the pre-market high and low. We're just going to look at that weekly level. Here is the weekly highs above us. We open here on NASDAQ today. Here are the weekly highs way up here. Okay. Have we gotten close recently? No, we haven't gotten close this week. Okay, so we're staying below them. We're staying below that high range of last week. Anyway, so the market opens today. We're below that. We're in the middle of these two. Look, right in the middle. That's pretty interesting. And that's symmetrical like crazy. That's actually rare. That's a rare scenario. And then the price action comes down to this previous week's open, rejects off, comes back, rejects off, comes back, rejects off again. Wow. You'll start to see these things happen so often, it won't even be amazing. You won't even say wow anymore. You're just going to say, oh, there it goes again. So now let's look at the other four critical levels that are always present. We've got the pre-market low, the bold blue, and then the previous day low, which is the dashed blue. And then we've got the pre-market high, which is the bold red, previous day high, dashed red. Same thing, same thing. So we can see those now as the price plays with these levels. We come up, we reject off of those highs. We've already rejected twice off of this pre-market or previous day low. Come back to it for a second time, and what do you notice? A huge volume confluence emerges. A lot of selling emerges right here as we are breaking through it, and that set off the move. Look how we again played with this critical level, which is the pre-market low. It's interesting to just watch that day in and day out, because you start to really see how consistent it is and how that could maybe mark good entries or profit targets. And let's get into the alignments today. When did the first alignment occur? Well, at market open, our 2-hour heavy momentum is already in the down direction, negative. So now we're waiting for the next 15-minute crossover in the down direction to occur. So we're waiting for that to occur. So we're going to wait for that to occur. Okay, now it's occurred. The 15-minute has flipped over now. See that? So then we make sure our 5-minute is looking healthy. We don't want it to be expanding against us. We want it to be going with us in some degree. And then we go to our 2-minute execution time frame. You could be using a 3-minute execution time frame. 3-minute is beautiful. 1 minute is okay. I think the 2-minute and the 3-minute really perhaps are the best execution time frames. We're going to be looking at this on a 2-minute. So what do we see? We've got this alignment occurring now, so now we want to wait for the next realignment to occur on our execution time frame, which happens right here. See? Pull back, pull back, pull back, and then we realign to the downside right there. That would have been a loss. We're going to mark that as red. Going to the next one, the next realignment was right here. Pull back, realignment to the downside. Right there. And that would have been a win. Again, we're using a 1-to-1 with either the ATR or the candle structure. So if the candle is, if we enter at the close of the candle and it's 100 ticks long, then we have a 100 take profit target. Or you could use a little bit less or more depending on what ATR is, the average true range. So that's 1 loss, 1 win so far. The next realignment occurs right here. But this entry is technically already within. This entry would still be playing out. This trade would still be playing out. So keep that in mind. However, this one would be a loss. Next realignment occurs right here. That would have been a win. So far we're at break even, 2 losses, 2 wins. Next realignment is right there. That was a win, so now we're up 1 on the day. Now what do you notice? Oops, put that back. What do you notice right here? The 5-minute momentum is now starting to warn us. It's starting to move away from us, right? So if we start pulling away and not expanding with the direction of the momentum trend, well then that's not a very good time to take a trade, right? That'd be kind of foolish. So we don't take trades if that's starting to happen or if that's happening. And after this recent one right here, when we get to this next setup, it's kind of starting to happen. So you want to be more risky. That was still a win. And as we get to the next realignment, which is here, we're really pulling up now, pulling away from the direction of the momentum. So we want to skip these trades. We want to wait for the 5-minute momentum to realign to the downside as best as possible. We just want to be patient. It starts to occur now. It's ticking down for the first time. 5-minute is now realigning with these higher time frames. This was an entry that I marked because it was a realignment. It was just too early. The 15 hadn't actually printed yet. There was a realignment in momentum right there. That also would have been a win. I'm not going to mark it yet because the 5 hasn't concluded. We want to wait for 5-minute confirmation, which just occurred right here at 11:06. So now the next realignment is valid, and that is that one right there. Even though it looks small. Nope, that wasn't. This was actually it right here. That was it. Yep. Which would have been a loss, by the way. I'm going to mark that as a loss. Now we're basically at break even again. Next realignment right here. But the 5-minute is still weak, hovering around, so all of these are kind of sketchy. That would have been a win. Next realignment occurs right here. How to find a realignment? Wait till it pulls back to the downside. Wait for the pullback to the downside. If we were taking longs, we'd wait for the pullback to the upside. That's another win right there. A lot of opportunities to trade today, as you can see already. A lot of opportunities. Some days we don't have many, some days we do. This is a very risky setup because the 5-minute is what? It's pulling back at this time. This very time it's starting to pull back. That's not good. We want it to be expanding in the direction of the trade. So we're going to skip that one as well, even though it would have been a win. It starts to pull back here. Now the 5-minute is pulling back and it's into the red. And we get a fat realignment candle. Would this have been a win or a loss? It was close. It would have been a loss if you would have used the candle structure. Would have been a win if you would have used ATR as the range, so a little bit less. A little bit less than that candle, maybe around right here. We're going to call that a loss as well. We're going to do one more thing. We're only going to go over a few more because we don't get many more realignments for the rest of the day, unfortunately. Our 15 is now dying off at this point. See, our 15 is now starting to pull back. We do not want to trade if the 15 is not expanding. That's not what we want to do. So we wait for the 15 to cross over or make another flip back to the downside after touching green. We want a full, fresh momentum flip. So when does this happen? The 15 starts to cross over here at around 2 p.m. And then we want to wait for the 5-minute to start expanding minimum before we even consider a trade. And the 5-minute doesn't start expanding with the direction. Look at this, hours and hours it's been selling off. But now everything is changing. Now it's starting to flip back to the upside. And it does. We have that first confirmation that the momentum has shifted to the upside. So the next trade would have been literally at the end of the market right there. That realignment right there. And that's extremely risky. Would have been a win, however, but very risky. So that was all of the alignments that occurred today. Now we're going to just recap that. We're going to look at the nature of the market. We're not even going to look at entries and exits. We're going to look at the nature of price action that happened today. Ignore this 2-minute chart for now. We're going to just talk about the 5. The 5 and the 15. And here's what I mean. Here is market open right here. Let's wait for the 5, the 15, and the 2 hour to all be going in the same direction. 2 is going to the down direction, so we wait for the 15 to start catching up to that. That happens right here. We've flipped over. See that? Now we want to wait for either the next 5-minute realignment or the next 5-minute volume confluence to take the trade. Just using the 5-minute chart. So now that the 15 has crossed over, here we are past that point. That was also a volume confluence on the 5-minute chart. So that could have been an entry right there for a 1-to-1. Now we go forward in time and look for the next realignment that occurs, which is here. Why is it a realignment? Because we had a pullback and then the momentum realigned to the overall alignment that's occurring between the 15 and the 2 hour. This heavy alignment channel that's occurring. So that also could have been an open opportunity to enter. Enter at the close of the candle, stop loss at the top of that candle. That would have been a 1-to-1 win as well. So this is how you find alignment between the 15, the 2 hour, and the 5. And when you do find those, you start to see how the momentum literally does control the market. When things fall into resonance, there's nothing that buyers and sellers can do besides partake on the journey. It's going to happen with or without them. How much and how far, we don't know, but either way. With all of that being said, that was all of the trades today and all of the setups and the alignments. I do hope you have a good one. Take care now.